live. And
We are live.
There
well
we go.
done. Good execution.
Huh? Yeah? Even
Okay,
without you
Alan.
knowing.
Alan says he's prepped.
By the way, the reason I said, are you ready to take the boat in tonight? Steve, I was trying to get Steve to go live, was my mom and dad had a boat, and my dad had a heart condition, and he was worried that what if he someday had a heart attack and my mom wouldn't know how to bring the boat in. So he taught her how to sail. We had a sailboat, how to bring it in and get it into the slip. And she did that for a couple of years, and he realized, wait a minute, I haven't done it in a while. And it was his birthday. So he said, well, I want to bring it in this time. And he brought it in, and all of his friends were on the dock. They were throwing a big party for him for his birthday and everything. And he rammed into the dock. It was pretty funny. All right, well, Alan says it's time for roll call, so we will do a roll call. We have Alan and Kevin and Jason and Frank and Jill and John and Rick and Sandy and Shai, who's been stuck on a boat for 115 days straight, and Michael Westbay, and I think we may have, no, we don't really have Nuclear John. He's playing the Outer Worlds. Who else we got? We got Frank and Widget Bot.
And we may have Wheels. We may have the other Frank.
Didn't I say Wheels?
Oh, you did? I missed that. Sorry.
I said Frank twice. I said Frank and then
Good.
I said Frank. Totally different.
Wheels is coming. All right.
Wheels are coming or Wheels is coming?
Yeah, it's debatable. I would say is, since it's a name.
That's the kind of question I always ask Sandy. I had her working on that for me this week, trying to figure out if you're talking about the App Store and two other apps. Is the verb is or are? Where is the App Store reminders and mail? Or where are the App Store reminders and mail?
Well, App Store is just an adjective of the reminders. So it's the reminders that determines.
No. The App Store is an app.
Oh, say that again?
So in what you'll be hearing, I'm going to ask the question, where are these three apps? The three apps are the App Store.
Oh, okay. That makes it okay.
The Mac App Store, reminders and mail. So it is or are?
It's where are they? It's a cluster of three, right?
It is, but it sounds funny to say where are the Mac App Store, comma.
Yeah.
I changed it around so I didn't have to say either one. I split them apart.
John says
I
it's
said,
a
where
cluster.
is the Mac
cluster for sure.
I said, where is the Mac Store and where are the other two?
All right.
With
that preamble.
Let me do a test recording here.
All right.
Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, and you'll notice my voice is very low tonight. I started to lose my voice last night. I'm not kidding. Gotta love it. Let's see, I'm going to do playback. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan. Oh, what are you going to do? I assume you guys heard that? Full Kathleen Turner. Exactly.
Did you mute Discord and turn on Mimo?
I did.
Okay. Because I forgot.
Was that the correct thing to do?
Yeah, I just forgot.
Okay.
All right. Are we ready here? Let's switch her over and take it away.
Switch you over. Oh, I'm allowed to go? Okay.
You can go. You have the go codes.
All right, muting Steve. Oh, no, he did all by himself. Isn't that polite of him? Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, September 5th, 2021, and this is show number 852. Before we get the show started, I have an announcement to make. There will not be a live show this next coming Sunday, September 12th. Steve and I are going on a little trip, and we won't be around to do the live show. We're actually taking a trip to Virginia and Maryland, and this is a trip we've been planning to do for a very long time, literally years we've been planning to do this, and just finally got around to scheduling it, and we're going to do it. The first person we're going to go see is Kevin, also known as Big in Virginia. Now, we've known Kevin forever, but we've never met him in real life. Kevin is Steve's wingman. When we're in the live show, in the live chat, Kevin's job is to protect Steve against whatever I say bad about Steve. I don't know why he would think I would ever do that. Kevin is also the man who kidnapped my toy horse many years ago until I got a new iMac for Steve. So it's about time we finally meet him. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Maryland and we're going to hang out with Chris Ashley, Rod Simmons, and Rob Dunwood of the SMR podcast. Now, we've met Rob at a couple of conferences, and Rod has actually been to our house a few times, and so we know them really well in real life. But in all these years, we have never met Chris Ashley. So we are going to meet Chris Ashley, and he's going to, I think, literally bring out the fatted calf for us. He's going to start barbecuing on Friday for us to eat all day Saturday and Sunday. Anyway, we're really excited about the trip, and just want to let you know why we're going to be gone. And that's going to change the format of next week's show. I didn't want to leave you without a show, but I also won't be around enough to do a lot of content for the show. So next week's show is going to be an interview with Rod and Rob and Chris. And what I want to talk to these guys about is they live in a very cross-platform world, and I want to kind of understand how that works. So they, Rod has, he uses an Android phone and a Mac. Chris uses an iPhone and a Windows machine, and Rob uses Android and a Windows machine. So we've got all three combinations of how these different tools can work together, and I simply don't know how they do things when they have all this different cross-platform stuff. So I think it might be fun. I thought it might be fun to go through and ask them about that. So it won't be a standard format. It might even feel a little chit-chat across the pondy, but I think it's going to be really fun. They're great guys, and I think we're going to have a really good time. So the most important thing to know is no live show next week, but there will be a NosillaCast, and I don't know what day the NosillaCast is going to come out. Might be on Sunday, but we'll still be on travel. I'm not sure how well that'll work. So it might be Monday night. It might be Tuesday. I'm not really sure. No promises, but whatever it is, it's going to be a great show. There. All ad-libbed.
I'm excited. I finally get to meet my wingman in real life. That'll be good.
You know, we should remember to take a picture together.
Yeah, I think we might be taking one of those.
Feeder scheduling is your friend. Well, I would have to write the installments for that to happen. Now, Sandy and I've met in real life, and Steve. Oh, Rose came in just to give her written notice why she won't be here. Absolutely take a picture. Yes, we will do. Steve, you can talk out loud to Rose.
Is she? I don't see her in the live show. I just see her chatting.
She just wrote, won't make it to, right. Oh, I see what
I
you're saying.
can't talk with, I mean, I could, but she wouldn't hear me.
Okay. All right. Let me bring up, I should probably do a chapter mark. What do you think? Is that what Kevin was blathering about?
I think so.
Didn't do anything. Why didn't that do anything? Okay, I heard one click. There's the second one. There we go. Where's Mike?
Mike? Well, I thought, no, I guess he isn't here. Okay.
Well,
no hall
Kevin
pass.
blathers a lot. That's right. All right. Oh, no. He says, you think I blather now? Wait till you see me in person.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Let's see. Why are these not? There we go. Preview. Here we go. All right. Muting Steve. Uh-oh. Okay, here we go. Nope. This week's Chit Chat Across the Pond is another installment of Programming by Stealth. And in this episode, Bart talks about something he's been really excited to teach us. He wanted to talk about Chamois templates. Now, you might remember Chamois is the tool that allows us to manage the dot files and the configuration files, if you will, and use them between different machines and control them. And we've been talking about it for a little while. But this one was about Chamois templates, which includes learning functions and arguments, how to declare variables, looping over arrays, and learning the Sprig utility functions to extend Chamois. I thought he was going to jump out of his chair. He was so happy to teach us about pipelines in Chamois, which are actually a grand way of embedding function statements in a way that's very human readable. Now, this is our penultimate installment on Chamois, where next time we'll be learning about how to manage our dot files across multiple computers, where not everything is the same between computers, but much of it is. Now, after that, we will be starting up with PHP. And I'm actually going to do something very artificial. I'm not going to do a chit chat across the pond with anybody else until I can do 2 episodes in a row with Bart, because that will make him episode 700 of the Chit Chat Across the Pond the day we start on PHP. I know that's artificial, but that's what I'm going to do. Plus, I'm going to be out of town anyway, so it's all going to work out. So look forward to starting PHP. And in the meantime, you can find this episode of Programming by Stealth in your podcatcher of choice. And I should say, you can follow the link in the show notes to Bart's fabulous tutorial. That's a little artificial, but I can't do one. I have to either do 2 or none. No, 2 wouldn't let him on it. Anyway. Plus, that gives me a break. Ha. All right. Preview, close this. All right. You're sighing, Steve.
My sign?
You're sighing.
I thought you were saying something like, here's your sign. Ed joined us.
Ed. Oh, Ed. Bart and I were talking about you. I was just talking on
behind his
about
back.
How we're going to start. Yes, behind his back. But I said nice things just for this once. We're going to start at episode 700 of Chit Chat Across the Pond. So in 4 weeks, we're going to start PHP. And I told him that you're crazy about PHP. And we decided that you're going to be his teaching assistant. I hope that's okay.
Just signed you up for that.
Yeah, Ed is crazy about PHP. He's written his whole, he says, yay. See, I knew he'd like it. He's written his family's website in PHP. And Bart says he knows PHP, but he's not fluent in PHP. So I think he might actually need your help, which I think is would be really fun.
Cool.
So, yeah. I'm really itching to get started with PHP. We got to do one more thing with Chez Moi, and then we get to play with PHP. You're a hacker, though. Oh,
a capable hacker.
Do you mean a hack or a hacker? That's slightly different, right? Bart is... well, he's not in Belfast. Isn't Belfast in Northern Ireland? He's in the Republic of Ireland, and he lives in Maynooth, which is outside of Dublin. Isn't Belfast in Northern Ireland?
I think so.
It's unlike me to know geography.
Yeah, I'm surprised you pulled that one out.
Yeah, he's actually in Maynooth, in right outside of... who's Batfink 2001?
He just joined the chat room tonight.
Before.
I don't think we have.
Have you been here before?
Welcome, Batfink.
Definitely welcome. What's your... do you want to share your real name?
Well, that could be it,
Michael doesn't like PHP. Well, that's what we're doing. We've been promising it for like a year and a half.
And you've been salivating to get to it.
I have been. Well, I just want to learn something new. Capital city of Northern Ireland. Okay. Batfink covered us here. Oh, you know what? He can't hear me. He's not... Can you send him an instruction, Steve, on how to get into the live audio? Seamus.
Okay.
Oh, maybe he can hear me. Seamus. From Northern Ireland. Well, that's a coincidence.
Remember, he could hear you if he's just watching the video.
Oh, okay. That's right.
Or
and a regular on DTNS. Oh, okay. There we go. Well, nice to meet you, Seamus. All right. I am going to start reading something here. So I'm going to start recording.
Wait.
What?
Did you add a chapter mark? Did I miss it? Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Muting you. Good. Oh, I know what that's from. That's from the book you read. Okay, here we go. As a beginner developer, I find it very difficult to recommend coding tools to others because I'm worried the more advanced programmers, will kind of make fun of me. They'll say my opinion is wrong because I don't have the right experience, or I'll accidentally step into a religious war like accidentally saying VI is better than Emacs. No one who listens to this show has ever given me a hard time, and in fact, the community has been really supportive as I continue to learn to code, but I still worry a little bit about reviewing coding tools because I don't really know what I'm talking about yet. I worried about it when I wanted to do a review of Microsoft's Visual Studio Code, but I mustered up my courage and I did it anyway. It was reasonably well received if I measure that by the fact that I didn't receive any emails that started with, "Well, actually, Allison." So one of the things I really dislike in a public speaker is when they make a lot of excuses up front before telling you what they know, and I've just done exactly that. I'd like to tell you about a plugin for Visual Studio Code that I'm finding really useful. But first, let's start with the problem to be solved. As a junior programmer, I struggle with syntax all the time. Imagine you're just learning English and you want to ask for a glass of water, but you don't know whether you should start with the pronoun or the verb first, and is it me or is it I, and do you say water or H2O? You know what you're trying to say, but how do you say it? I'm like that all the time when I'm coding. I'm not too bad at HTML, but in JavaScript, I'm often staring at a blank screen trying to do something relatively simple, and I just can't remember how to write it. For example, if I'm referencing an element's ID with jQuery, I know I'm going to need a hash symbol. I know there's quotes around it, and I know I need a dollar somewhere in there, probably up front. But is the hash inside or outside of the quote? Is it inside or outside of the parentheses? I've written this a lot of times in JavaScript, and I feel like I should just know it by now, but I often get it wrong. All right, keep going here. Another problem to be solved is that a lot of programming is repetitive. Maybe you need to write very similar code for 3 different circumstances. For example, every time you write an if statement, you probably want to write an else statement. What if you could have a tool that auto-completed whatever you were trying to write, whether it's a new function or a repetitive task? It's possible that the new plugin called Github Copilot for Visual Studio Code might do the trick. Github Copilot is a plugin for Microsoft's Visual Studio Code, as I said, and its job is to make code suggestions for you as you type. Github Copilot is an AI tool that was trained using all of the freely licensed open source code on GitHub. Now, this has raised a bit of a controversy about the legality of this approach. If a piece of code under, say, the GNU public license is learned by this AI, and then it's offered to me by GitHub Copilot, and then I sell my code, wouldn't there be a legal problem in there? Well, many open source licenses have legal restrictions on what you can do with the code. But if you want to read more about the controversy surrounding the methods of Microsoft's GitHub that they use to teach GitHub Copilot, simply search for the tool and you'll find lots of commentary on this controversy. But I'm going to set that aside for now, and I'm just going to enjoy the tool. One of the biggest reasons did I remember to say? One of the biggest lessons I've learned as a programmer is that real programmers don't just know everything. They know how to search for what they need. If you want to know how to find out whether a button has been clicked using JavaScript, you just search for it, and someone has written the code. Might take you a few tries to find the exact code you need, but eventually you'll find something that works or is close enough to be modified for your needs. GitHub Copilot has studied every open source project in GitHub and has found patterns that people follow to write specific functions. If you start writing something similar, it understands from context what you're trying to do, and it'll make suggestions. Now, right now, GitHub Copilot is in technical preview, and they say it works with a broad set of frameworks and languages. They go on to explain that right now it does especially well for Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, Ruby, and Go. All right, enough talking around GitHub Copilot. Let's talk about how it works. Steve, are you in the post right now? Because could you change right where I say right now GitHub Copilot is a technical preview? What I typed was board set instead of broad set.
Okay.
Can you change that for me?
Will do. What does the paragraph begin with?
Right now. Starts with right now GitHub Copilot.
There it is. Okay.
You just search for board.
Got it.
I said it correctly, but it was written wrong. Thank you. I signed up for the technical preview and I was immediately accepted, so I think it's pretty easy to get into it. That gave me the plugin to download and install into VS Code. After that, you just start writing code. So I've been collecting examples over the last few weeks of where GitHub Copilot offered code to me that I found helpful. Let's start by way of example with something super simple in HTML. The first line of an HTML file is always less than symbol, exclamation point, doc type space, HTML greater than symbol. Okay, you got the 2 angle brackets on either side. You type that every time. With Github Copilot, if I hit enter after writing that, and I just wait a second, and gray, it types in the entire next line, which is always angle bracket HTML lang equals en, assuming you're writing in the language English. So if you like what Github Copilot typed, you simply hit tab to accept the solution. So it's no longer in gray and it becomes whatever color you're trying to type in. If I hit enter again for a new line, Github Copilot will type angle bracket head, which is the next traditional thing you write in all HTML files. You put in a head. I decided to just keep pausing and see what Github Copilot wanted to type for me next and how long it would go. It gave me all of the classic metadata tags at the top. It threw in a title. It closed the head section. It added a body with a heading and 2 paragraphs and closed the rest of the document for me. Now, I've always wanted to have a template to start my HTML files, and Github Copilot did a pretty good job of setting it up for me. But let's not pretend that that's brain surgery or anything. My next real-world example was really interesting, and I'm not sure how scanning GitHub repos helped it to learn how to do this. Hey, Steve, when you look at that, there's a big block of text on the blog post. All that ampersand LT semicolon, those are supposed to be less than symbols. Are you seeing less than symbols, or are you seeing ampersand LT on the blog?
Let's see.
It's a big code block.
I see a little code block. I don't see a big one. I just see
a big one.
Okay.
Look for the paragraph that starts with, I've always wanted to have a template. It looks like they all got commented out, where they got escaped out, every single one of them.
Okay, I see. I've always wanted to have a template. Are you saying
right above
right after
that? You see a big
I
right before.
I just see three things: title, content, date.
Title, content, date. Okay, I'm gonna make a note here. Check, big code block. Everybody must have thought I was an idiot if this is how it looks on GitHub Copilot. They all escaped, yes. Okay, what's the last thing I said? And I'm not sure how scanning GitHub repos helped it to learn how to do this. Okay. So I was editing a section of the Taming the Terminal book using Visual Studio Code. We wrote it all in code so that we could use GitHub, and it all works great. And so anyway, I was doing some editing, and Bart had a section that I thought needed some clarification. So I, of course, opened an issue in GitHub, but then I fixed it myself. In one section, Bart was explaining how to add your SSH keys to Apple's Keychain. He inserted the code he pulled from his terminal session. He showed that he was prompted to enter his passphrase for his SSH keys. Well, the change I wanted to add to the book was to point out that you may not be prompted for your passphrase, because I wasn't prompted when I followed those steps. So I typed in, quote, note that you may not, and GitHub Copilot finished my sentence. It added, be prompted for the passphrase, in which case you'll get a message like the following. It was exactly what I was going to write. It was like word for word what I would have written, except that GitHub Copilot had a typo in it. It wrote prompted instead of prompted. I checked to see if we have the same typo, if it's somewhere else in this document, maybe it replicated it, but we did not. We did not make that typo. So I have no idea how GitHub Copilot knew what I was going to type, but whoever it learned from for this code had a typo in their code. Sorry. All right. Okay. After writing that note, I started to type what the terminal was showing to me. I wasn't copying and pasting from my terminal session because I needed to show it as though Bart had typed it, not me. And if I'd used my own copy and paste, it would have had my username and all this other stuff in it. I typed the code separator, and then I hit enter and I paused, and GitHub Copilot typed in identity added : /user /Bart /.ssh /ID _RSA, and then in parentheses the same thing. Now, I don't think GitHub Copilot learned that from its GitHub AI training, unless it scanned the Taming the Terminal book itself, which I suppose is altogether possible. It's also possible that it simply copied it from a few lines above where the same line was typed. Either way, it guessed correctly, and I didn't have to type it. In another example, I was struggling with some error checking for my time shifter clock, and I was trying and deleting code over and over again. In every attempt, I was testing whether these two things were true. Had the callbacks not fired, and if the value in my input box was greater than 2 characters long. Sorry. My throat's going again. Bye, Shy. Whoops. Guess I should have stopped recording before I said goodbye to Shy. One time I typed if callbacks dot fired is let's see. One time I typed if callbacks dot fired equals false, and GitHub Copilot typed in ampersand input box dot val parentheses dot length greater than 2. It typed that in for me automatically, and that is exactly what I needed to type. Now, in this case, it was some of the code that I deleted earlier, so it was obviously learning from me as I was doing it, but it was exactly what I needed it to do. Another time, I was searching for a solution online, and I found the JavaScript class called Mutation Observer. I'd never looked at Mutation Observer before. Now, in my searching, I found several lines of code using Mutation Observer that looked like it might do what I needed. As I started to replicate the code by typing by hand, which I always do, suddenly GitHub Copilot autofilled precisely the code as written that I had found on some random website. That one blew my mind. Now, you may be wondering by now what you're supposed to do if the offered code is not what you want. I said you hit Tab to accept it. If it's not what you want, you can just ignore it and keep typing, and it just goes away. But what you might miss is that the suggestion you see is not necessarily the only suggestion GitHub Copilot has for you. When you get a suggestion, but it isn't what you want, you can cycle forward through all of its suggestions by holding down Option right square bracket, or Option left square bracket if you want to go back to previous suggestions. Now, if you don't feel like cycling through all of the suggestions one by one, you can hold down Control Enter. This shortcut causes GitHub Copilot to open in a new pane in Visual Studio Code that shows you all of the solutions it has for you in a list. In the simple HTML example I put in the show notes, it says at the top, synthesizing 10 of 10 solutions, duplicates hidden. Now, 8 of the solutions were duplicated, so it only left 2 solutions. Above each solution, there was a link that says, accept solution. When you click on one to accept, the code is inserted into your file and GitHub Copilot closes itself. It's very polite that way. Now, I haven't gotten those keyboard shortcuts into muscle memory yet, so I find it handy that if you just hover over a suggestion GitHub Copilot is making for you, then there's a pop-up showing you the keystroke to cycle through the options, along with a single click to open GitHub Copilot to show you all of the suggestions. Now, here's another neat example. A common practice in programming is to set a variable to false just so you know your starting point, and then in your code you do something else to set it to true. I wrote let didBlur becomes equal to false, and then I wrote input box.blur, and I started a function. As soon as I did that, it autofilled didBlur becomes equal true. And it just typed that for me. It just knew, well, you just told me you wanted it to be false, so I know you want to change it to true so you can do something else with it. Now, I'll point out one more time that my examples aren't probably all that difficult to guess, but even at that, it's a time saver when it makes good suggestions, and then it gets out of my way if I choose to ignore it. Another time I was creating 3 sections, they call them divs, for hours, minutes, and seconds. The format I had was div class equals call-to, border, hours, and then closing the div. After I wrote the first one, when I hit enter, GitHub Copilot created an identical div for minutes, and then seconds, and finally milliseconds. Well, I didn't actually need milliseconds, but I did need the other ones. I did need to have hours, minutes, and seconds, and it autofilled all of those for me so I didn't have to do that repetitive typing. Now, my final example is about comment statements. I like to create starting and ending comments for my embedded HTML tags. I find it really hard to keep track and make sure you have opening and closing tags that match and that they're all indented properly. So these comments like open column for buttons and close column for buttons are very helpful to me. After I wrote an opening comment, I went to the corresponding closing tag, and GitHub Copilot wrote the closing comment for me exactly as I would have written it. It was awesome. Now, I have seen some information online that some researchers have found that there's maybe not good code being written and I shouldn't say copied, but not all of the code in all of GitHub is good code. You still have to be responsible for your own code. You need to make sure it's secure and that you're not putting in buffer overflow errors and all that kind of nonsense. So don't let it just do everything for you. But I think it's actually a pretty cool tool like it is. Now, I'd love to write a bottom line about GitHub Copilot, but I can't for several reasons. One, it's only in early testing, so we don't know how it's going to develop. We don't even know if it's going to be free or maybe freemium when it's done. I couldn't find anything about that online. We don't know what's going to become of the legal questions being posed about using AI to learn from open source code and what that means in terms of licensing. I do know one thing, though. GitHub Copilot is helping me see new solutions when I'm coding. It's taking the burden off my hands for repetitive typing, and it's auto-completing my comments for the most part correctly. I like it. And if you do any coding, I think it might be helpful to you too. You can sign up for the technical preview at copilot.github.com. There we go. Did I miss anything?
All right. You did miss that Seamus is from Northern Ireland, but lives in D.C. And has been following you through DTNS for a while. Or maybe just following your podcast. So
cool.
Familiar with NosillaCast.
I am now officially a regular on DTNS. I was an unofficial regular, but now I'm officially a regular. If that makes any sense.
It's nice to be official.
I think so.
All right. Are you up to your last post already? Wow.
There's 2. I love Security Bits Week. I started thinking, I don't really need it to be a 2-hour show, right?
No.
This one's fun and kind of nerdy. I know you'll be shocked.
Let's check something.
Oh, a bit of both, Seamus says. I like your handle, Batfink.
I'm sure there's
Batfink, but Batfink.
There's got to be a story behind that. Maybe there's a character Batfink that I'm not aware of.
Maybe. There's Batboy.
There is.
My brother Kelly loved Batboy. He thought the what's the quote unquote newspaper that's from?
Yeah.
The World Daily News. What is it?
Yeah, and
Somebody's
we put news in quotes. The Daily World News or the.
It's got world in it somewhere. Somebody's going to remember.
Yeah.
John and Kevin are answering. Here it comes.
Yeah, this is going to be a winner. Frank already answered.
Yeah. Oh, no. Saw a Batboy. Trash Pandas game. You saw a Batboy? Okay, somebody find it. All right, I'm going to start recording. Did you know that Apple applications aren't really in your top-level applications folder with all of your other apps? If you open the applications folder on your Mac using the Finder, you'll see all of your Apple apps happily intermingled with your third-party apps. But it turns out they're not really there. To prove what I'm saying, we need to view files from the command line using the Terminal app. Now, if you haven't ever used the Terminal before, please don't be afraid. This is going to be very, very easy. It's very light lifting, I promise. Terminal is inside the Utilities folder, inside your Applications folder. Or is it? Anyway, we're going to change directory in Terminal to your normal Applications folder. So in the Terminal, you're going to use the command cd. That's short for change directory. So in the Terminal, simply write cd /applications. Now let's list the files in this folder using the ls command. So you simply type ls and hit enter. Now, if you compare this list to the Finder view of your Applications folder, you'll see that all of your third-party applications are there, but you will not find any of your Apple apps listed in this directory. Now, you may have noticed that your Mac has another Applications folder under System. Let's change directory using our newly learned cd command to the system-level Applications folder. We do that by typing cd /system/applications. Follow that with ls, and looky here. Here's all of your Apple apps in the system level applications folder, all by themselves without all of your third-party apps. Isn't that kind of curious? Well, I noticed this a long time ago, and I thought about doing a write-up just called Fun Facts to Know and Tell. But recently I had an experience where knowing this gave me a clue to a problem I was having. The problem I've been having is that Spotlight keeps forgetting where my applications are. I launch Spotlight and I type in Mail, and it shows me things like the Gmail app in the Mac App Store, instead of finding Mail on my drive. When this is happening, I also notice that Spotlight is indexing my drive. After a while, it finishes it, and then I can launch apps again via Spotlight. But then a few hours later, it stops finding them, and it starts indexing again. Luckily, there's an easy trick to force a reindex, which I hoped would unconfuse Spotlight. The easiest way to do it is through the Spotlight System Preferences pane. There's a tab in there for privacy. This is where you put volumes or folders you don't want to be indexed by Spotlight. A good thing to put in there is your connected backup drive, and you do that so you don't accidentally start opening things via Spotlight, but on your backup drive when you wanted to be doing it from your main drive. If you want to force Spotlight to reindex your drive, you simply drag your main drive into the Privacy tab for Spotlight, and that will stop the indexing. You close System Preferences, reopen it, and take the drive back out, which will cause Spotlight to reindex the drive. Unfortunately for me, this didn't shake loose whatever was wrong, because my Mac continues to forget where the apps are, reindexes on its own, finds them, and then forgets again. Now, I didn't have any other good ideas, so I wrote to the Mac Geek Gab because they know everything, and John F. Braun suggested using a command that he wrote into an email to me, sudo space mdutil space -E/. In the terminal, you can view the manual for most commands by typing in the word man followed by the command, so I wanted to know what that really was. Anything with a dash in front of it is called a flag, and these are described in a list with the manual. So again, in your terminal, you can do this. I typed in man space mdutil, and the manual told me mdutil manages the metadata stores used by Spotlight. What's the store? Oh, Batfink. Did you just make that, Ed, or is that real?
By the way, Jason did find the publication, and it is the Weekly World News, and he's got a picture
Weekly
of it.
World News.
I scrolled it in the chat room.
Oh, there it is.
There's the classic shot of Bat Boy.
Yep. My brother loved Bat Boy. I don't know why. It just tickled him. His favorite thing to do is go to the store and buy the Weekly World News. All right. Okay, fair enough. But what does the flag -E mean? The easy way to find that out is, again, looking at the man page for mdutil. It lists all of the flags, so you see all the things that start with dashes. It says -E. This flag will cause each local store for the volumes indicated to be erased. The stores will be rebuilt if appropriate. Well, this sounded dandy, except for the rebuilt is appropriate part. I kind of want it to definitely rebuild everything, but what the heck, I ran the command. Just like with dragging my disk into the privacy pane, the mdutil command worked for a day or so, and then the problem came back. I booted into safe mode to try to clear things out, but the problem came back. Why not try an SMC reset? We always do those. That seemed to fix the problem too, but the problem came back. That's when I realized simply rebooting fixes it temporarily too. I tried testing in other accounts on my system, and the problem wasn't there, but since I can't really work in those accounts for very long because none of my stuff is there, I don't think I really proved whether it was working or not. Now, after literally weeks of this problem, I got a clue to the root cause. I realized that it wasn't all apps that wouldn't launch when the problem was occurring. It was only Apple-specific apps, not my third-party apps. Since we know that the Apple apps are not in the /applications folder, and instead they live in /system/applications, what if the permissions were borked on the Apple applications folder? I looked at them using the terminal. That's kind of an advanced topic, so I'm not going to go into it here, but I didn't see anything wrong. So now I have this great clue, but what do I do with the information? Well, right around this time, I had a whole new problem on my Mac. Now, I want you guys to remember, I did a clean install, so fiddly things wouldn't have to happen. It's only been like 8 months since my clean install, and I'm still having all this weirdness. Maybe don't take my advice. Don't do a clean install. Why bother? All this weirdness happens anyway. All right. Well, the new problem I had, this new entertainment, was that when I used the caps lock key, my Mac would pause for up to a full 2 seconds before continuing to finish what I typed. The pause was so long that often the words I typed after the capitalization word came out, they came out before the capitalized word. I know many of you are yelling into your devices that the caps lock key is evil and I should disable it. But you know what? I learned to touch type when I was a young child from my mother's 1946 typing school book, and it was good enough for the pop mom. It's good enough for me. Now, while that was supremely annoying, I realized then that autocorrect caused the same 1 to 2 second lag. I may be a touch typist, but autocorrect is still my friend, and now it was betraying me as well. Then things got really bad because a text expander snippet expansion was also plagued with the interminable lag. That was unacceptable. I did write to the text expander people and they tried to figure it out, but I figured since it's happening with autocorrect, with my caps lock key, it's probably not their problem. So it was time to take this drastic action. My friend and Apple consultant, Pat Dengler, suggested it might be time for an over-the-top install of the operating system. Now, I'm not talking about a nuke and pave here. This is actually a very simple and quick way to replace the operating system without a lot of bother. Think of it like lifting everything in your house up in the air, putting in new but identical carpeting minus the stains you had, and then setting the furniture right back down. That's how I like to do think of the over-the-top reinstall. So this sounds terrifying, but it's actually really easy, and it also doesn't take very much time. You simply boot into recovery mode, run the reinstall, and it takes like maybe an hour. Of course, don't do this without a full backup, but in my experience, it hasn't been destructive, and it only fixes things. After the reinstall, not only did these super annoying pauses go away, to my delight, Spotlight started doing its job properly. Until it forgot all about the Apple apps and started reindexing again. All right, it's time for the most drastic of solutions. I knew I had to call AppleCare, but I didn't want to. I am so tired of calling AppleCare, and I'm never happy afterwards. I don't want to call them anymore. So I procrastinated for a few weeks, successfully only because of something I heard on the Mac Geek Gab. I didn't realize that you can use Launchpad to launch apps just like you can with Spotlight. And yes, I hear how dumb that sounds, not realizing that something called Launchpad can launch apps. But I didn't know it could be invoked with Control Space. That means it's just as easy as Spotlight, and all I have to do is retrain more than a decade of muscle memory and switch to Control Space instead of Command Space. Interestingly enough, Launchpad can always find my Apple apps when Spotlight has amnesia. Now, it still bugged me that Spotlight was so broken for me, so I finally broke down and I called Apple. I told Sam, the first level tech, that I figured there was a 90% chance he'd have to send me up to a senior tech, and then I described pretty quickly what the problem was and everything I'd tried. Sam immediately said, "Yep, you're going to a senior tech." I was so happy that Sam did that quickly. I told him so many times people go, "No, I can help you figure it out," and I know they can't. So, many times the first level techs have been amazing. I don't want to put them down because usually I tell them, "Why are you a first level tech? Because you're amazing." But I was pretty sure this was going to be a tough one. So Sam handed me off to Nicole, and she has been lovely as well. She quickly read Sam's notes. We chatted a bit, and she said, "Yeah, you've done everything I'd have told you to do. Off to engineering for you." Now, we all know that off to engineering is a euphemism for wishing you into the cornfields from that awesome episode of The Twilight Zone with Billy Mumy. It's basically where tech problems go to die. Sandy is still waiting for engineering to get back to her. Any minute now, they're going to fix her problem. They swear it's going to be fixed in the next OS. Anyway, back to all about me. In a crazy twist of events, engineering actually responded, and they responded quite quickly. They sent a message back to Nicole to relay to me. They suggested something very similar to John F. Braun's command line method, but with a few more steps. They told me to open the terminal and run the command sudo launchctl load space -w and a bunch of glop that ended in a plist file. Well, off to the man page to read launchctl. Well, all it says is interfaces with launchd. All right, what's launchd? I knew it had to do with launching stuff, but the man page says system-wide and per-user daemon agent manager. I said that wrong. I'll get it yet. System-wide and per-user daemon agent manager. Well, that didn't have a lot of meaning for me, so I just went ahead and ran the command. I got the response that the service in the command was already loaded, so I guess I didn't even need to do that step. I didn't need to do an unload. The engineer's next directions were to restart, make sure Time Machine wasn't running, and then they told me to run almost the exact same command John F. Braun suggested. This time, they put the sudo command in front. Sudo means super user do. I have never know is it sudo or sudo, and whichever way I'm saying it, I'm sure a nerd's going to tell me I'm wrong. But anyway, it means super user do, which escalates your privileges for the upcoming command. The engineering person said to run sudo mdutil space dash capital E, lowercase a, I, and then off, and then do it the other way around and turn it on. So this is interesting because we used mdutil space dash E last time to cause each local store to be erased and rebuilt only if appropriate. So according to the man pages for mdutil, the dash A means to apply the command to all stores on the volume, which we didn't do before, and dash I allows you to add the on and off commands. So yes, what he told me to do, or she told me to do, is turn it off and turn it back on again. So the last thing engineering suggested was the command mdutil space dash AS. Well, the S flag tells mdutil to show the status of indexing by volume on the system. When I ran the status command right after doing the turn it off and back on again dance with mdutil, it showed me each of my volumes and said indexing enabled next to them, with the exception of my backup drive. Remember, I said you should exclude your backup drive, and I have done that. So that one said disabled, but all the other ones said enabled. That makes sense, that all made complete sense. But later, when the system starts failing and to find Apple apps again, I ran the status flag on mdutil again, and now it says it's disabled. Not sure if that's a clue or not, but I've sent it off to engineering. The final instructions from engineering were to not launch any third-party apps until the indexing done was... Okay, too many word typos. Not sure if that's a clue. Okay. The final instructions from engineering were to make sure to not launch any third-party apps until the indexing was finished. And that was really annoying. It said not to run Time Machine either, but that didn't bother me because I don't run Time Machine. Finally, when all was working again, they asked me to run a diagnostic on Spotlight. If you open Activity Monitor from Utilities Folder... Why am I... Finally, when all... Keep just stumbling over my own words. Let's see. Finally, when all was working again, they asked me to run a diagnostic on Spotlight. Turns out if you open Activity Monitor from your Utilities folder inside Applications, or using Spotlight if yours is functioning properly, there's a little circle with three dot icon. When selected, it'll let you run a spin dump, System Diagnostics, or Spotlight Diagnostics. I had never seen that before. It took a while to run, and it created a huge bundle of text files, so there's no chance I'm going to be able to read and interpret it, but I thought it was cool they have something to look at. Now, I decided to run this diagnosis when Spotlight was misbehaving because it seemed like it might be uninteresting to give it to them when it was working. Now I'm at the twiddle my thumbs again and wait stage. But at least I have the impression that engineering is looking into it. Now, this all started as a fun fact to know and tell about Apple's apps only pretending they live in the normal applications folder, but I actually ran into needing to know this tidbit a second time recently. In Programming by Stealth, Bart was teaching us how to tell our terminal what our preferred text editor is. You can tell it to use one of the nerdy command line editors like VI or Nano, or I suppose Emacs, and that feels natural to me because you stay in the command line. Or you can have it use a GUI app like TextEdit. It'll pop up when you ask it to edit a file in the command line. Well, in my configuration.file, I dutifully told mine to point to an app I like called Cot Editor, and that's a third-party text editor, and it worked perfectly. But then I tried changing it to TextEdit, and asking it to edit from the command line did not open TextEdit. That's when I realized I was working at the command line and I was typing the full path to the app. And TextEdit is not in /applications, it's in /systems applications. So see, I told you this was a handy thing to remember. The bottom line is that I think that knowing that your Apple apps aren't really in the normal applications folder is not only a fun fact to know and tell, might be a good piece of information to just kind of tuck away in the back of your brain just in case things get weird for you. Also, I'll let you know if engineering ever... Come on. It's the punchline. Don't ruin the punchline. Also, I'll let you know if engineering from Apple ever lets me come back in from the cornfields so I can use Spotlight reliably ever again. There. You don't think that was enough content, Steve? 33 minutes worth. You're talking, but you're muted. Now you can talk.
I didn't realize you'd have 2 long posts, so that's fine. I think you did great.
Thank goodness. I was worried you might be.
Yeah, I could tell.
Super
So
worried.
it's nice. It's how does it feel in the cornfields?
It's sad.
Timmy.
I bet there's people in the chat room who are too young to know about that episode.
Seemed that several had remembered it and liked it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, I'm going to do spamming, so I'm not doing a chapter mark yet. Most frightening episode. Yeah, wasn't it? Oof. So you know what's awesome? When the exchange rate is in your favor and someone cool like Nick Box signs up as a patron through Patreon using British pounds. I feel like I'm making money illegally at such a good exchange rate. In any case, Nick is my hero because he went to podfeed.com/Patreon and he pledged a pound amount that reflected the value he feels he gets from the show. How awesome is that? If you'd like to become awesome like Nick, you can become a patron too. And I see a typo there. Feels 2 L's. There. All right, now it's time for a chapter mark. Scared of Grim Reaper? All right. Come over here. Copy link. Copy. There we go. Uh-oh. It didn't work. Delete. Try it again. I think I moved before it was done. Copy link. Copy. Hands off the keyboard till it's done. There it is. All right.
There you go.
We had a really funny beginning to Security Bits because Bart sent me the show notes. And at the beginning of it, he wrote just a quick note about how he had Tom Merritt of DTNS on Let's Talk Apple. And he didn't write a lot about it. It was just kind of it was just like a note. He didn't have a link to it or anything. He didn't extrapolate. And I know people read the show notes, so I wanted to have a little more. So I fleshed it out a little bit, and I sent it to him. And he said, "What are you talking about? That's not in the show notes." He had sent me the show notes for the Let's Talk Apple episode. So I had like the completely wrong notes. It was pretty funny.
So do we get to hear a plink?
Would you like one? Here you go.
Always.
Blink.
There you go.
How was that? Blink.
That's good.
I think
Very
Steve
reliable.
loves the, yeah. See that one. We'll get rid of that one. And then we'll move Bart up here. Come on. You can go. Come on. There you go. All right, let me increase that a little bit so I can make sure. Is that right? How you doing today, Bart?
I am doing just fine. Just back in from...
Okay. He had unexpected sunshine. He said that confused him. We watched a scare. Oh, there's Billy Mummy there.
Yeah.
Hey, here's
gotta scroll back
a
to that.
little. Here's something you guys may not know. The remake movie of the Twilight Zone, or not remake. There was a movie called The Twilight Zone, and there's an episode where they redo that episode. It's very different, but they do basically the same kind of plot line. And the beginning of it, a guy is in a bar, and the guy next to him is Billy Mummy. All right. So I need some Security Bits music. Here. And we'll take these two, and we'll slide them over and see how's that sound. Maybe right about there. All right, let's hear that. Okay, listen up, Steve. Pay attention. Become a patron too. As he talks over it. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for... Nailed it.
Nailed it. Jenks.
That's a good one, right?
Yep.
All right, now let's see how long this show is. Hour and 34 minutes.
Wow.
All right, let's see.
Anyway, until next time, remember, folks, stay patched so you stay secure.
That's the same kid. Billy Mummy's the kid lost in space?
Yeah, I think it is.
Oh, gosh.
Sure looks like him.
I remember that. Wow. When is the new Lost in Space coming back?
I'm not sure it was renewed.
Oh,
You're talking about the
really?
series? Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the chat
It
room
was
know?
so good.
Yeah, I think they had, what,
It was
two
super hokey,
seasons?
but I loved it. All right. Let me bring it home here. I'm muting you. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Don't forget to send in your dumb questions, everything is fiddly recordings, comments, and suggestions by emailing me at allison@podfeet.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at podfeet. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. You could go to podfeet.com/Patreon like my hero Nick, or podfeet.com/PayPal if you want to do a one-time donation. You can join our conversation in Slack at podfeet.com/Slack or podfeet.com/Facebook. Now remember, there's no live show on the 12th. But we'll be back on the 19th, and you can join us by heading over to podfeet.com/live, like Seamus did this week on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening, and stay subscribed. That's probably the first time I've ever remembered somebody's name that I didn't have to go back and redo it. I stumbled over, what did I say? I said Saturday instead of Sunday, but I got the name right.
Good job. Well done.
So proud of myself. Well, it's very fun of you to be here, Seamus, and very fun of everybody to be here.
Thanks for joining us,
there
everybody.
Wait, release date and what to expect. What does it say, though, Jason? Season 3?
What's the summary? Post-production.
No, there is a Podfeet podcast, Alan. There is a Podfeet podcast. Don't say there isn't one.
It's just
There's
it'll
no
be a
live
different
show.
format. No live show, right?
Yeah. Season 3 will be the last, but there is one more. Okay.
Oh, good. At least
Some music here real quick.
hopefully they'll be able to tie it off a little nicely then.
Yeah. Hang on one second. Thanks for listening, and stay subscribed. All right. There we go.
Sounds good.
All right. I'm going to export, and we've got 3 minutes to spare. Mama needs her medicine.
A stiff bourbon for that voice.
Actually, maybe I should have some of
A
my
hot toddy.
or my huckleberry vodka I brought back from Montana.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this stuff is nectar of the gods. It's so tasty. I could find out if it works on my throat.
I think
We already know rye
experimentation
works.
experimentation is required here. Multiple rounds.
Oh, do a chapter count. We forgot.
Yes. Good job.
I see 4. I see
Hold
4
on.
lights. What have you got?
Hold on. I count 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're good.
Peanut butter whiskey. Ed keeps claiming he's going to bring us some peanut butter whiskey.
I'm looking
It'll
forward to
happen
it.
someday.
Little jelly
There
in
is
there.
a Podfeet podcasting. Thank you, Alan. All right, everybody. Well, I'm going to say goodbye. Rose isn't here, but so I guess I'll just wave. I can kiss you all goodbye. Mwah, goodbye.